Hi, and welcome to the 6th video in our series. This video provides tips and advice for showing your home to potential buyers. As you prepare your home for a showing, there's one thing that you absolutely need to keep in mind, and that is that you may only have one chance to make an impression on a potential buyer. So be sure you put your best foot forward. In order for showings to be as effective and successful as possible, we've created for you 18 tips on how to best show your home to buyers. Tip number 1, when you show your home, you want to engage the buyer emotionally because the decision to buy is based more on emotions and less on logic. And you can accomplish this by staging your home and accentuating your home's positive attributes and not drawing any attention to any negative features. Tip number 2, open all the window coverings to let as much natural sunlight in as possible. Dark and dingy rooms are just not very welcoming places. Tip number 3, turn on every light in the house, including appliance lights and even lights in the closets. Tip number 4, if weather permits, open all the windows. However, if there's too much noise outside, go ahead and keep them closed. Tip number 5, keep blinds partially closed that otherwise show undesirable outdoor scenery, such as a dilapidated fence or maybe a nearby structure that obstructs views. Tip number 6, turn off the TV and turn on some soft music. Jazz or classical music are ideal for these type of situations and set a very appropriate mood. Tip number 7, now is not the time to worry about your utility bill. If it's cold enough to wear a sweater to stay warm, turn on your heat. You want the temperature inside the house to be comfortable and to give the buyer more of a reason to linger, especially on hot or cold days. Tip number 8, if it's warm outside, turn on the air conditioning. It's better to heat or cool the house a degree or two warmer or colder than you might ordinarily have it at, and then set the temperature back down to its normal settings. This may prevent the air conditioning or the heater furnace from kicking on while the buyers are there visiting the home, because sometimes some HVAC units are a little noisy. Tip number 9, it's usually best if you can leave the house while it's being shown. The buyer won't talk about the house, won't open closet doors or cupboard doors while you're standing there, and it's just not comfortable for buyers if you're there at home. Tip number 10, don't expect buyers to remove their shoes unless you know that you're selling to a buyer for whom religious or cultural reasons mandate it. Otherwise, the presumption is somewhat insulting. Tip number 11, that fragrance that you like so much may not be liked quite as much by everybody else, particularly those people who are coming to look at your home. Many people are allergic to certain scents and fragrances, so don't spray the air and try not to use those plug-in air fresheners. Tip number 12, don't burn candles and don't spray perfume in the bedroom for the same reasons discussed in the prior tip. Tip number 13, you can't always show your home when the lawn is lush and green and the gardens are at their peak. So if you have seasonal photographs showcasing flower gardens or leaves bursting in color in the fall, or maybe a snow-covered lawn twinkling from streetlights, then go ahead and feel free to display these prominently for visitors to see the house in different seasons. Tip number 14, it's always nice to leave a small bowl of wrapped candy or other treats either near the front door or on the kitchen table with a small note thanking the buyer for coming in to see your home. People appreciate these small but very thoughtful gestures. Tip number 15, even if you think your dog or cat are the friendliest animals ever, buyers looking at your house may have allergies or they may even have fears about animals. So always make sure that the pets are kenneled or taken off the property during showings. Tip number 16, nothing turns people off like pet odors can. If you have cats, be sure to clean the litter box just prior to leaving the house. Tip number 17, It's better to be safe than sorry, so be sure to secure all your jewelry, cash, prescription medications, and any other valuables before you leave the home. And finally, tip number 18. Occasionally, people who are not accompanied by an agent may stop and ask to see your property. Please refer them to us, and we'll pre-screen them, and then we'll schedule a showing with you. We mentioned this in the last video, but it bears repeating. After an agent has shown your property, we'll follow up with the agent to get his or his client's feedback. And of course, this feedback will be sent to you automatically by way of email. But it's important to pay attention to this feedback. For example, if we get a lot of feedback that consistently says that the property is overpriced, then we will of course need to consider a price adjustment. Or if feedback indicates that the rooms feel small or dark, then we need to make sure that the window coverings are open and perhaps the room needs to be decluttered. At this point, you might be wondering about how showings on your home are scheduled. We use a company called Centralized Showing Service to schedule showings on your home. So when an agent wants to show your home, he or she will schedule the showing through Centralized Showing Service, and at that point, Centralized Showing Service will either call you or email you or text you, depending on your choice, to get your approval for that showing. So you'll never have agents showing up unexpectedly wanting to show your home. And if you have specific showing instructions, for example, you want to restrict the hours that the house can be shown, or maybe there's a day sleeper at home, or a baby who naps in the afternoon, just let us know and we'll be sure to alert the showing service accordingly. That's it for this video. Thanks for taking time to watch, and we hope that you'll find these tips to be helpful when the time comes for you to show your own home for sale. We'll see you in the next video, which is about receiving and negotiating offers.